Hey guys, so in this video we are going to talk about experience, so let's get into it. Now, basically what I wanted to talk to you guys about is this, well, I wanted to touch on something and clarify a few things. You see, not that long ago I made a video where I tried to kind of explain what I tried to achieve on this little channel of mine, this little hobby of mine that is, well, growing, I suppose, or spiraling out of control. It kind of depends on how you want to look at it. But in this video, I tried to state to you that I basically have the desire to show you real software development, to go one further than most other channels and actually share my personal journey through software development. And as you can imagine, that's a tricky thing to do. The reason it's so tricky is because it's very software development, like the IT industry is massive, and therefore I can only really relay the things that I see and the things that I face on a daily basis. And I try to make it as diverse as possible, and I try to cover all the things, but it's not going to be perfect, simply put. However, I also state kind of that in my personal opinion, by stating that, hey, I'm going to show you real software development, I'm almost kind of implying, and I'm sorry if you have taken it this way, that other channels are not valuable or that they're not showing you real software development. And that's what I wanted to clarify in this video. This is not so. You see, the thing is that there are different levels to software development. Now, the majority of the content that you will find on the internet is an introduction. And that's the thing I'm out to change. That's the thing I want to change. You see, it doesn't really matter if the person teaching you the basics of programming is a master programmer or a junior programmer or an intermediary programmer. It doesn't really matter, because the basics are, quote unquote, so simple that it doesn't really matter who teaches you. And that's the thing that's the thing I want to clarify. When I say that I want to talk about real software development, I'm talking about what comes after the basics. In other words, if you know how to start up a server, or if you know how to, let's say in front end, if you know how to bootstrap an Angular project or a React project or something like that, and you know how to make a to-do app, then you know the basics. Now, this is where some people get confused, because those are the basics of software development. What comes after that is when you don't really have the option anymore of building your own little nothing application, but you actually get business requirements. You get to build the sort of components or the sort of systems that people use in order to make money. That's what I define as real software development, because the fact of the matter is that even with just a few days of training, you could in theory go and make a video about how to learn, say JavaScript or Java. Anyone can do that. There are actually quite a few channels that show you the bare bone basics. Now, I haven't checked out some of the bigger channels who do these very basic introductions, whether or not they're actually professional software developers, but I don't have to. And you shouldn't. It depends on what your needs, of course, but if I'm learning a concept from scratch, it is not so important for me that the person teaching me that is some type of master programmer, because they don't have to be in order for me to learn the bare bone basics. The difference is, and this is the important bit, and that's why I think that it's not there's not much of that going on, because most of these channels are, it seems to me, not about professional software development. It's about the channel itself. They are running a business of some sort. They are about their own channel. That's not what I try to do here. I try to just be a regular guy who writes software for a living and shares some of his findings. And that's probably the reason why, rather that's what I like to think anyway, is going to be the thing that is different about what you see here as opposed to somewhere else. If you need to, I'll gladly show you some basics, but I want you to know that that's not the focus. Because as I said, there are plenty of people out there who will teach you the basics, and I want you to know that it's not a bad thing to learn the basics from basically anybody, because they're so simple. But what you want to be careful about is to take career advice and architectural advice from somebody who's not a professional. You should be very careful about that. You have to, because if somebody's telling you, if somebody's trying to teach you the next step, if you're above the basics and you're going into professional level software development, you're not an amateur anymore, or like you're not just a complete beginner, that's when you need to talk to somebody who actually does this full time. At least that's what I think. I think that's fairly important, because it's so easy for you to kind of trip yourself up, or even worse, get really bad advice from somebody who really shouldn't, you know, who they're not really doing this at a professional level. Now, to be fair now, most, as I said, of the content that you will find on the internet and on YouTube and so forth, they don't even touch this. And my guess, I don't want to be presumptuous, but my guess is that they don't do that because they're not professionals. They don't work in the industry. I don't know, I don't quote me on that, I don't know. But that's the thing I want you to take away from this. If you are just a beginner learning the basics, anything will do. Anybody can teach you the basics. But once you're past that beginner level, that's when you and I can have a great conversation. At least I hope so. And that's when you need to make sure that you're listening to professionals. Have a great day.